When Ryan's when it's time to begin, it's on the Rewind of Raw with John Pollock and Wai Ting. The A-Team that makes sense of these things we see in the ring every week on TV. It's Rewind of Raw for Monday night. Download it Tuesday morning from the Post Wrestling site. It's Rewind of Raw for Monday night on USA Now on the John and Wai Take the Mic.
Welcome everybody to Rewind a Raw. I'm John Pollock and Wai Ting. And hello, Wai.
What's going on?
I'm just looking at. Sorry, I'm getting a warning here, but everything's fine. Everything's great. I feel like you and I just we talk a lot.
Oh yeah. I mean, especially this weekend. This is our sixth of 6 shows in 3 days.
Sorry, my audio recorder here is giving me this weird signal, but that's my backup, and the main one is fine. So, by saying out loud my problem, I'm eliminating this problem. So,
all right, okay,
we're all good. This is the real life behind the scenes, everybody, of being concerned about something not going properly. But We're fine, and you're listening to this, and it sounds crystal clear. So, anyway, let us move on. Wai, I last talked to you about 5 and a half hours ago. What have you been up to?
I went out.
Besides, what'd you do in the, like at most 2 hour gap you had in between starting Raw?
I went out and I bought a battery for my watch. I learned how to fix my watch with a battery swap.
Oh,
went to
YouTube.
Yeah, of course, yeah. I used to pay somebody to do that, and I mean, it's actually probably cheaper for me to even pay somebody to do it because it's such a cheap repair. But I like learning to fix things by myself. Just headed out to the dollar store, and then I baked some chicken. I ate, and then I watched Raw.
All right. Well, that sounds all right. What did I do? I had dinner. I went for a 15-minute walk, which was my free time. And I came home. I did some dishes. I came downstairs, and it was 8:15 p.m., and it was time to start Raw.
Cool.
That's what I did.
Nice. What was for dinner?
It was very good. It was like this pasta with some chicken and vegetables with like the sauce on it. It was actually very good.
What kind of sauce?
I don't know. It was like this broth that had been, it was kind of like a thicker broth, and it had like a really nice taste to it as well. And I used some hot sauce on it. Fantastic dinner. It was great.
Well, that sounds great.
And then I went and I got a decaf coffee. Wai. Monday night, usually for Raw, I go decaf coffee. On a pay-per-view night, I get just the full-on coffee. That's how I work.
Is it why coffee at all? You like the taste?
I do like the taste. Decaf coffee, I've become a much bigger fan of. It's not just like I have this propensity for coffee and just have to drink some form of it. Decaf coffee isn't all that bad. Put a little bit of sugar in it. It's really hard to. You can tell the difference, but it's not a wide gap.
So coffee for you is more about taste and not as much about the caffeine?
I used to have a very low standard for coffee, but I have now, once you have a really bad cup of coffee, I think it scars your entire attitude towards coffee, and you're forced to have standards. So I am a little choosy now.
Right. Okay. For me, like I drink coffee, but I usually only drink it if I need to, like a bit of a pick-me-up for me to be a bit more alert. I rarely actually. I mean, I do go out and grab coffee just for taste, often a latte or something like that. But this late, I usually not this late.
I like just going to it's like something to go and get. I think I'm very much like a creature of habit in that sense. I feel if I ever had started smoking, I would have been a chain smoker like no one's business. I think I just would have done it out of habit every single day. And it's just, it's like a break. Go for a smoke break. So I'm really glad I never got into smoking ever. It was always gross to me. And I'm really glad I would rather coffee be my vice than cigarettes.
Well, my dad was a smoker, so that kind of...
My dad was a smoker too, and it was just, he smoked, he would smoke cigars like pretty regularly, but not so much cigarettes. But it was just, cigar smoke, I never really had a big issue with, but cigarette smoke is just, man, I really can't do that.
Yeah. But because my dad smoked, like in like grade 5 or something like that, you have to like do a speech, some type of public speaking speech. And I decided to do mine on
the benefits of smoking.
No, the dangers of smoking.
Oh, okay.
And, that just kind of like, I didn't really have a strong opinion either way, but of course you watch a lot of TV and you realize, oh, smoking's bad. And so I guess I had always wanted my dad to quit, and he eventually did quit.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But I did this presentation in grade 5 on the dangers of smoking. And I guess like to make myself not be a hypocrite from my presentation in grade 5, I never even tried. So thanks to that presentation, I've still yet to have my first cigarette.
Did you practice your presentation in front of your dad?
I don't know. I don't remember, actually. I don't remember. But the reason he quit has nothing to do with me. He quit because of like the government of Ontario. At one time, did I tell you this before?
No, I don't know this story.
So the government of Ontario, or something like Volkswagen or something, they were like doing a non-smoking challenge where if you stop smoking for like 30 or 60 days, you could win a Mini Cooper. And
wow,
my dad, after like smoking for like 40 years, just like really wanted to win a Mini Cooper. And
now, how did they enforce this over the whatever period it was?
You're supposed to have some type of like, witness or somebody like somebody to prove that like you didn't do it. And I don't know if they would do some type of testing or something. I'm not sure. Anyway, it came down to like a random draw. My dad was not even close, but he won anyway.
Oh, look, it changed his life.
I guess so. Yeah.
He won.
He won the Mini Cooper of health.
The
Mini Cooper of life.
That is the greatest prize of all. Cars come and go, but your lungs, they're with you forever.
That is right.
Well, this has been a very heartfelt start to the show, and I think a real educational one for everyone out there. So with that said, Wai, we don't have a Mini Cooper to give away, but we have almost the next best thing, and that is a post-wrestling prize pack.
Oh my God. You don't even have to quit smoking to win this one. Smoke all you want. Please. It's your body. I don't judge at all. But I will judge you if you're not a member of the Post Wrestling Cafe, because you have to be a member of the Post Wrestling Cafe in order to be eligible. That is, of course, our Patreon, where for the entire duration of the G1, John and I are feverishly recording post shows after every single G1. And on top of that, there's a 20% off sale going on right now at our merchandise store.postwrestling.com for all of our patrons. So if you are a patron, take advantage, including our toques and our hats. They're all on sale. So, but beyond that, every single week we give out one t-shirt, sleeve, sticker, postcard prize pack to a lucky member of the Post Wrestling Cafe. So, John.
All right, we're going to spin. That's the spinning sound. Okay. Now, everyone, if you are a cafe member, I want you to close your eyes. If you believe it, then you can achieve it. Think, put it out into the world. Say out loud, I am going to be the winner. I am going to be the winner. I am going to be the winner. And you know what? You are the winner if your name is.
Wow, that's quite the introduction, and very long. And I wish it was even longer because I'm still waiting for this damn page to load.
Oh man, I served this on a golden platter.
It was
for
so
you,
good, John. It was so good. But you know what? didn't have to be that much longer because it is ready right now, and I'm doing the completely random draw, stopping at this point. And congratulations to Jeremy Berube. Yeah.
Is it Jerome or Jeremy?
Jerome Berube. I'm sorry. Jerome Berube from Quebec. Congratulations.
It's a familiar name. Yes.
Yes.
Well, congratulations, Jerome. You will be getting the prize pack. And you know what? We heard you all the way from Quebec. You put it out there into the world, and we heard it. So there you go. You know what was so funny? So years ago, there was this press conference. This is going to be one of those podcasts where I think I'm going to have I'm in a rambling mood, so bear with me. Where Michael Bisping and Luke Rockhold, this was before, I think it was their second fight. No, it was probably before their first fight, to be honest, in Australia, the one where Rockhold won. It doesn't matter. And Rockhold and him are at the press conference, and someone asks Rockhold a question about, it's just some random question, and he says about becoming champion that, if you believe it, then you can achieve it. And Michael Bisping just cuts him off. He's just like, what the fuck are you talking about? And it's in Michael Bisping's accent. He's like, believe, achieve, get the fuck out of here. And it was just this great delivery, and Dana loses it. He is laughing so hard. And then last week, Barstool Sports did this tour of Dana White's office, and there on his wall is a believe it, achieve it, motivational poster. And I just found it so funny that here is Dana White laughing at this line, and then he's got the inspirational quote. If you check this out, Robbie Fox at Barstool Sports did this. I will not spoil this, but within the first 5 minutes, Dana White shows off this gun that he has bought for his office. This is the most Dana White purchase you can imagine. And then when he goes on to explain the significance of this gun, this firearm that he has, that is a semi-automatic or something. It's something else. So there you go.
What a character.
You want to see Dana White's office. It's next level.
Man, fight promoters, I mean, I guess he definitely lives up to the stereotype.
The coolest thing in the video, right at the end, they go into the room where they make all the fights. So they've got all the lists of fighters written on the walls, all the rankings. And then you go over and they've got the list of all the fighters who have either one fight or are on the last fight of their contract. So it's you can pause it and look at contract statuses of them. And it's just this room. And it's all the upcoming fights that they had to blur out in the back. It was kind of interesting to see, this gigantic office that as you can imagine, that Dana White occupies.
Very cool.
Anyway, that was I don't even know how I got there. Believe, achieve. That's where we started on that, and that's where we ended. This week at postwrestling.com, we have not as crazy a week as last week, but still a lot of shows coming your way. We'll be back on Tuesday night with Rewind to SmackDown, and then I don't know what I'm going to do on Wednesday. We have a rare day off, Way.
Well, enjoy it while you can, because I feel like Wednesdays are going to be pretty busy come October.
I was shocked today when I was putting the schedule together, and I was like, oh, there's nothing. Technically, Rewind to SmackDown is technically out on Wednesday. So it's we do have a show that day, but you know what I mean. We're not recording a show on Wednesday, which is very rare for Way and us. But then on Thursday, we make it all up. That is when the G1 resumes. So we will have G1 Climax shows coming out Thursday, Friday, and Saturday this week. All of those will be on the Post Wrestling Cafe for members to check out. Right after the show's finish, we will get those up and done. Thursday, we've also got the Cafe Hangout at 3 o'clock Eastern Time, and I'm looking forward to this. Our old friend James Lynch, now with The Score, running their MMA coverage, he is going to be joining us, and he is someone that I don't know if we've never had him on, at least nothing post-wrestling related, but we'll chat with him about his move to The Score, some interesting topics about MMA media at the moment and many different moves that we have been seeing. And I'm sure we'll get into some news items as well with James Lynch.
You think he'll do his Gateguard Musasi impression for us?
I think for us he might. Maybe he'll bust it out.
I hope
actually,
so.
Yes. Actually, he gave me his Skype ID, and it was just hilarious. I won't share it, but it was very funny. And then we'll also be joined by Ontario independent wrestler Buck Gunderson, who is going to be wrestling on the OWE shows here in Toronto coming up SummerSlam week. 2 OWE shows of the 100,000 shows that are running over SummerSlam week. And if you want to get an updated list of all the shows and matches that are happening in Toronto that week, I have updated the schedule, and you can go see that on the main page at postwrestling.com. So Cafe Hangout, 3 o'clock Eastern on Thursday for our Double Ice Cap and Espresso members. Saturday, in addition to our G1 show, we will have Cruel Summer out on Saturday. WH is joined by Davis Storm to chat about the final from the G1 in 2005 between Masahiro Chono and Kazuyuki Fujita. And then on Sunday, there is no better way to end your week than with WH Park and Dan the Mouth Lavransky, as they will be chatting about the 2006 final between 2 men who have been linked to each other throughout their careers, Hiroyoshi Tenzan and Satoshi Kojima, going at it in the finals of the G1 that year.
Very exciting. I look forward to all of that.
I think I missed Up Next in there, but of course that will be out Thursday with Braden and Davey. So whole schedule's up, postwrestling.com, and you can subscribe to Up Next's own individual feed. They did a great review of Evolve on Saturday night. So lots of stuff to check out if you are behind. We put out about 55 shows over the weekend. All great.
We do it for the truck drivers.
We do it for the people. All right. Let's chat a little bit of news before we get into Raw. Let's start with this, because I saw you comment on this, and I certainly saw it as well. This clip of Bayley on FS1's Fair Game with host Kristine Leahy, and this clip got a lot of interest on Saturday, and then FS1 did something that I think extended the cycle of this news story by taking down the clip, and that became a story in and of itself. But for those that did not see it, Bayley was being interviewed, and this is very much just a typical WWE promotional spot with their broadcast partner, and it starts off about the clip starts about travel, and Bayley's explaining that, it's really tough. We do a lot of driving, and sometimes there's a concern about running out of gas when we're in strange cities, and this is one where recapping it does not do justice to Leahy's visible reaction in real time to, she was not digging deep here for anything scandalous. She just happened to upon this subject that she's just was almost mortified by, that she responds, "You guys drive yourselves all over the place. The company doesn't provide drivers for you." And Bayley's just trying to explain, well, there's, you can't get 30 drivers for us. And she says, "You guys make a lot of money for this company." And Bayley just is trying to steer the conversation into a positive light and says that, we really bond on the road, and it eventually gets fun. And then she adds saying, what's in your CBA? And Bayley has to let her down, and we don't have a collective bargaining agreement. And this was just the most phenomenal clip, because it would be one thing if this was, a hard-hitting interview, but it was clearly not designed to be, and this is just her honest reaction. Like Kristine Leahy, who's probably around a lot of entertainers, a lot of athletes, and seeing the contrast to these professional wrestlers, that it's like the traveling circus, and they don't even have a collective bargaining agreement.
It was, I think a wildly important clip that I feel might be as important as that entire John Oliver piece. And I think what's so special about this one is that it came from, I would say, a partner, at least a future partner, and somebody who I don't think was looking to dig for any dirt at all. This was just a genuine reaction to a fact, and to hear it from, what seems to be a pretty prominent figure, I guess, in a sports reporting setting, react to something that I think we've all normalized for such a long time, with that type of disgust. I think it was really eye-opening to tell the whole world that, hey, this is going on in the WWE, and it's really archaic. And I think incredibly more ironic that in the same breath that they're talking about how, your superstars, they have to continue to do things like this.
What does was there any surprise on your part, the fact that the clip was taken down, that you can clearly see what the ground rules are going to be in this relationship, that FS1 is not going to do anything that's going to make the WWE look bad, and vice versa? I mean, this is going to, like, you are not going to see kind of a journalistic approach to how Fox is going to be covering WWE.
Well, if anything, I think I was surprised that the clip was there in the first place. And not only that, but the fact that Kristine Leahy continued to, like, retweet it, quote tweet it, saying, shocked to hear this. Happy to help with the CBA negotiation anytime. Like, this tweet is still up on her Twitter. So, if anything, I think I was shocked that it even took place in the first place and that it made air. Not so shocked that they took it down.
Kristine Leahy is now on my request list to get on our show. I'd like to interview her now.
I'd love to know.
And I promise we'll keep our clip up.
Yeah, I'd love to know what she thinks of all this.
I would be fast. I don't think there's a hope that she would be doing any kind of that Fox would sign off on her doing any press regarding this interview. But to me, they just kind of extended the legs of this story, because believe me, the rights of professional wrestlers are something that I hold very high. I think it's a very important subject matter. Unfortunately, it's not one that has proven to have much staying power. And we saw the ultimate example of that after the John Oliver piece, where, a week or two later, it was the talk of the industry for a week, but everything moved on, nothing changed, and it's right back to where we are. And this was nowhere near that. But once you took it down, I think it's not even so much it gave a lot of fuel to the talk about a collective bargaining agreement. I think it more so just shines a light on this is the relationship that is going to exist between Fox and FS1 with the WWE.
Yeah, but I actually feel like it was, like, it said probably, I feel like it was as impactful as something like the John Oliver piece. Not in depth, not in scope, of course, but I think because it came from, I would say, what felt like a pretty neutral source. When I say neutral, I mean somebody who didn't really have an agenda in the context.
Kristine Leahy, I don't think at all went into this like she went into this clearly just to do a regular interview, and you got her honest reaction to this on camera. That's what I find really fascinating about this. And
I'm curious to know, like, how she feels about the clip being taken down. Like, her tweet on her personal Twitter account is still up. You figured, like, maybe she would delete that one too, but I don't know. Maybe she continues to feel this way and is not afraid to admit it. But I find the situation really interesting.
The fact that she, listen, I'm not really familiar with Kristine Leahy. I know she was, on Colin Cowherd's show for a long time, but I never watched that show, so I really don't know much about her. But just the fact that she got onto this subject matter, and it's not like a bell went off in her head of, oh boy, I better steer away from this. She prodded her and continued with it. And that tells me someone that wanted to explore this subject further. And that's the mindset. I would hope that she was pretty disappointed that her employer took this down.
And in her tweet, specifically mentioning wanting to help with the CBA negotiation. And obviously there may be a tinge of comedy attached to it, but I don't think her disgust and outrage was really that exaggerated or done for jokes at all.
Anyway, the clip, you can definitely find it. David Bixenspan was right on top of this, preserving this clip for the world to see. And a few outlets have covered this. I saw Awful Announcing put up a story on this today, and, it did get some traction. Ring of Honor has announced that they're going to start streaming matches from their television tapings, beginning with this Saturday's show at the Hammerstein Ballroom. It's not going to be the complete tapings, but it's going to be, they're going to stream 6 of the matches, including the top matches with Matt Taven versus Jay Lethal and Villain Enterprises versus Lifeblood. But they are going to keep 4 matches that will have to air on television. But obviously this is a further push to Honor Club, which has been something that I feel like the draw is, if you buy the pay-per-views, then it's certainly worth getting Honor Club because you will save on it. That seems to be the biggest enticement for an ROH viewer. And this just seems like something to test out. At the sacrifice of their television that they can put out there, with the exception of a few matches.
Yeah. I mean, to run any type of streaming service, I think you need incentive. And I don't know if Ring of Honor, since the inception of Honor Club, has really added too much value to the package to increase incentive. I think there's still a lot of demand probably for that archive for whatever reason. I haven't heard any updates. It does not even seem to be a priority for them to upload. To me, that's the gold. But even then, let's say you put all the Bryan Danielson, Samoa Joe era matches up there. I guess that could only last for so long. And I think it's new content that, these streaming services have to rely on in order to maintain membership. So they're doing these TV tapings anyway. Why not sacrifice some of them to add some value to your content online, and at the same time, hopefully get some more eyeballs on that TV from different viewers. It's St. Clair who owns it all anyway, and they're the ones who benefit in the end.
Yeah, and this is one of those unique cases where, I mean, if WWE was going to try something like this, and I'm just throwing this out there, it's ludicrous, but if they were to put up like the live tapings of, it's not even a good example because with Raw
NXT?
and SmackDown, NXT is kind of an in-house thing, but let's say if NXT had a television deal, let's say NXT was airing on a regular station and they were offering the live tapings, the feed on the network, your television partner would be pretty upset with that. And I don't think they would be allowed to contractually to do that. With Ring of Honor, it's Sinclair. So it's essentially they're able to do something like this probably without any resistance from their parent company because it's all one and the same, their outlet and their owners.
Mm-hmm. It'll be interesting for me to see if there's any renewed interest in Honor Club as a result of this. My estimation is that if you're already an ROH fan, this might add a little bit of interest to you, but I would say for the general populace, I don't know how much Ring of Honor buzz there is or interest right now anyway, and I'm not sure if more Ring of Honor content in the form of its TV shows that people probably have access to but don't watch anyway, how much that will incentivize them.
Yeah, they're in a tough spot at the moment in their history, I find at the moment. And this, I think you're right. I think that this is something that it's a nice bonus for those that have already subscribed and now you're going to get more. But is this going to change someone to sign up? I think it's going to be pretty small. And I'd be curious to hear from people that still have Honor Club and what are the main incentives beyond the pay-per-views, because that to me is the big steal, is that you are able to get the pay-per-views discounted if you get the yearly membership. So that's what's going on in Honor Club. And the final thing here, PWG has been rolling out their names for Bola in September. And their latest name that they've added is Ray Phoenix. And he joins. I want to get your thoughts on what the lineup sounds like so far, Wai, because this is a year where they don't have access to as many performers as in years past because of contracts. A-Kid, Jonathan Gresham, Artemis Spencer, Darby Allin, Mick Moretti, Orange Cassidy, Bandito, Caveman Ugg, Jake Atlas, and Tony Deppen from GCW. So, like, they have a few standout names. They also have some unknowns in there. And then you kind of have some novelty guys in there as well, like an Orange Cassidy, for instance. So, what do you think of the lineup so far? In total, they'll have 24, but they've got, I think, 9 or 10 so far.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
11.
We kind of we did a review of Bola earlier this year for Rewind Away, and I think it brought a lot of conversation from the both of us about talking about how relevant Ebola is in 2019 and 2018, even when all these super indies are basically gobbling all this talent up that's available. So what is the role of Ebola when you really, the average wrestling fan has more than enough wrestling to watch, and a lot of the stars that previously might have been featured on a tournament like Bola are now seen in many other promotions. The roster that they have, I feel like no matter what happens, they should still be able to find 30 people? How many people are in the tournament?
24.
24. Yeah, I feel like you could find a good deal of names in that range to fill a tournament with, to elicit enough interest. I think PWG, the Bola brand itself, I think is
very strong
enough to I'm sure they'll sell out. I'm sure they'll do really well. Of the names that are featured, Ray Phoenix certainly I'm very interested in. I'm very interested in A-Kid, seeing what more he'd be able to do. Orange Cassidy, I think he's a great novelty that I think the internet ever since Double or Nothing has really kind of taken to, and I'm sure maybe adding even a bit more interest to Bola as a result. I wonder how far the act will go in the tournament. It's, you know,
I'd like him in for one round. He's out, and then he does the crazy 10-man tag on the last night. I think that's the best use of Cassidy. I don't know if you go deep in the tournament with an Orange Cassidy, like maybe second round. I would see that kind of being my ceiling for him in the tournament.
Perhaps, yeah. But no, I have to say, like, it's a roster where I'm not as interested in, perhaps, as previous years. That said, like, Bola is also a place for people to make their names. So some of the names that aren't as popular, if they have some hot matches, people will find out about it, and it could be a springboard for that person, and as well maintain that Bola, legacy.
My curiosity this year was if they didn't have access to certain names, if they'd be able to get a lot of unsigned talent that come with the benefit of not being contracted to any companies, that this could be the year that they try and stream this live, where I think there would be a lot of demand for the first Bola to be streamed live. But when you see names like Bandito with Ring of Honor, Darby Allin with AEW, Jonathan Gresham with ROH, that doesn't seem like that's going to be a possibility this year, where I think AEW would be willing to lend their talent, but to have it streamed live, I see unlikely. And same with Ring of Honor.
But you look at like all these shows that take place during WrestleMania weekend on Fight TV as part of that GCW crew or otherwise. I mean, there are plenty of names that are out there that aren't tied to any organization that, where you're free to stream their matches. And like, look at how well some of these shows do during weekends like that.
It's it all comes down to contractually. Like, some are able to do other streaming shows, others aren't, and that's kind of what that has been a factor in Bola in the past, where it's just whether they want to or not. And they seem pretty philosophically against that idea. It's just also contractually, it's not. They want to have access to all the greatest talent out there, and that was a trade-off that they had at the time. And will probably be, and we'll see when they add the rest here, that there's probably going to be a bunch of those names that wouldn't make that possible. But I think I always find it's been like, I think Bola would do very, very well, like on a Fight, or if they had some other kind of platform to stream live for.
Yeah.
So the rest of your news you can go find at postwrestling.com. Also want to send our well wishes to Harley Race, who is apparently hospitalized. He had to miss a comic convention over the weekend, but no further details are out regarding his health. Raw on Monday night took place on Long Island, New York, at whatever is the Nassau Coliseum. It's like a mouthful now what it's called, but this is where the Evolution pay-per-view took place last October, and what a different reaction to a women's match on tonight's show.
Ooh, yeah.
We will get there.
Hey, so it's on Long Island rather than in Long Island?
Yes, I've had this corrected in the past, and Michael Cole he's an on Long Island guy too, because you have to technically be on an island, not in the island.
Okay, sure. Even though Long Island is the name of the place.
Yes.
Okay.
I guess technically you're on, like, we're not in anything. We're on everything. So maybe it should be universal.
We should just start saying live from Toronto. No. All right. We'll figure it out.
Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman started the show. They came out. Lesnar had the Universal title, which he held up like the boombox, bringing that back. And Heyman got into the ring and introduced Brock himself as the advocate for the beast who slammed the summer and ruled Extreme, and is the new reigning, defending, undisputed Universal Champion. And Brock Lesnar, he was giddy with this introduction. He was so excited that he was the recipient of these accolades.
Oh yeah, he's great at like playing like the little kid who's like the big bully in the schoolyard. That's really how he comes across. He's great at it.
Corey Graves called him the most decorated combat athlete of all time, and Heyman, in a bit of a nod to the Ric Flair, Mr. Perfect, Bobby Heenan promo, said, "We aren't the kind of guys to tell you we told you so, but we told you so." And Heyman mentions all the stroke that he has around this place now. He is able to decide how they will determine the challenger at SummerSlam. and Brock is not the easiest to negotiate with. Ask the UFC or Vince McMahon, and he will fight whoever he wants to fight. And so Paul Heyman's idea is, let me take a deep breath, a cross-branded all-star top 10 battle royal.
Cross-branded all-star top 10 battle royal. Yeah, they all, like a number of people had to say that exact verbiage on this show.
My biggest gripe with this, top 10. This top 10 is more screwed up than the UFC's rankings.
I think just saying all-star would have been totally fine, but top 10, I mean, they tried that on SmackDown, and it was a miserable failure. So we have our top 10, and I think you're only inviting people to point out some of the omissions and some of the entrants that maybe
some of the ridiculous ones, like Cesaro losing to Aleister Black last night, Rey Mysterio getting destroyed last week, but qualifies for this. And other people like Kevin Owens, for instance, winning in 17 seconds last night. Now, the reason for this, they had a SmackDown house show. So that's where all those other performers were. But
what about AJ? What about Ricochet? What about Finn Balor?
All these names. Yeah. Ricochet, Ricochet's coming off a loss, but AJ, Nakamura, like all these people that had these big wins the night before, you're shining attention to it by doing something like this. And I don't care if there's a SmackDown house show. That's going to be a criticism when you're doing this of the perceived 10 most valid contenders to get a title match against the top champion.
Anytime there's a top 10 anything out there, whether on the internet, on Twitter, or whatever, the whole point is to invite debate and invite conversation. And I don't know if that was necessarily the intended effect of doing something like this, but look, they're creating a bunch of debate and a bunch of conversation, and there's certainly plenty to be had with the list like this.
So the names for the Battle Royal were Seth Rollins, Randy Orton, Big E, Cesaro, Braun Strowman, Rey Mysterio, Baron Corbin, Sami Zayn, who replaced Daniel Bryan, who had been announced earlier in the day, Bobby Lashley, and Roman Reigns.
What happened to Daniel Bryan?
I don't know what the story was. They just subbed out Bryan. I guess they have other plans for him, and this was a way to put Zayn in, I guess. It ultimately didn't matter because Zayn wasn't winning this, so yeah, it was just save Bryan for something else.
Well, yeah, if I'm Bryan or if I'm AJ or if I'm Finn, I'd probably be happy I wasn't in this by the end.
Bryan would be another one, like coming off that loss. Like, how do you qualify for this?
But well, anyway. We don't know what the criteria is. Maybe it's like based on miles traveled on the road. Maybe it's like air miles.
Well, in theory, Heyman handpicked these, so he picked some very tough competition for his client.
I guess.
And then ones that made less sense. So
well, he's a fair
all of it's
man.
on Heyman, I guess.
He's a fair man.
There were lots of cheers for Roman Reigns when he was showing. I thought the biggest reactions were Reigns, followed by Big E and Braun. And then Baron just got a ton of boos.
Yeah.
Anyone else stand out?
Not really.
Heyman went on to call Rollins a gelding, which he said, Google it. And it means an emasculated horse.
A gelding? A gelding?
A gelding, yes.
What's an emasculated horse? Like a horse, like a castrated horse?
Yes.
Oh. I didn't know that.
Rollins is a castrated horse.
There's a lot of talk of castration and dismemberment on this show. I didn't know they had a term specifically for a castrated horse.
Yeah, I guess.
You castrate anything and become something else?
In this case, horses, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah. He gives a spoiler warning that anyone stepping into the ring with Lesnar would risk their health and manhood, and in this universe, you are all Brock's bitches. And it seems
bitch is allowed now.
Bitch and references to male genitalia. That's what's going to get us to the next peak period.
Yeah, yes.
Up first was a 6-man tag with the Revival and the returning Bobby Roode against Ricochet and the Usos. It's really good that they broke up Roode and Gable. Now they're both, just surging on their own. They were really held back in this tag team.
I don't really understand that at all. I mean, they did try with Bobby Roode for 1 week? They had him. Did he shave his beard? Is that what he did? He shaved his beard, yeah. And
Chad Gable had one of the best television matches on a WWE show all year, and that was a one and done.
Yeah, he's not even
205
backstage
Live.
taking notes anymore. So
No, he gave up. He's like, you know what? I can PVR the show.
yeah, I don't know.
They immediately hit a super kick to Dawson, and Ricochet hit the code break. I'm sorry. He hit the recoil.
Well, yeah, of course.
The recoil.
Well, I mean, Code Breaker is a dude's move. Like it's you would expect him to. Well, hey, listen, Ricochet recoil. Come on.
Okay. And then a standing shooting star press, and he pinned one of the tag champions in 26 seconds. And then I realized, oh, it's 2 out of 3 falls. Of course.
Yeah, not much to this at all. It was just a quick pin to a commercial break.
No, we kept going. It was only a commercial after the second fall away. Because Jimmy got pinned after a flapjack. This one went really long. It was 2.5 minutes this fall. And then we come back for the third fall, and it built to Rude and Ricochet coming in. There was a springboard drop kick, and Ricochet sent Dawson off. Jay dove onto Wilder on the floor. Ricochet countered the glorious DDT and hit the recoil and goes off the top with a 630 splash, pinning Bobby Roode. 2 minutes and 46 seconds, the third fall went, and the babyfaces win, and then it was just a backdrop for Styles, Anderson, and Gallows to come down ringside. Ricochet and Styles started brawling. Everyone got involved, including the Revival. Then Anderson and Gallows. Rude pulled Jimmy down, then snapped Jay's neck, and he went into a shatter machine. Ricochet hit a high cross onto all three, and it ended with Styles hitting the phenomenal forearm onto Ricochet, and Anderson and Gallows laid out Ricochet with the Magic Killer. So clearly on this show, building up towards AJ and Ricochet in a rematch. Hopefully at SummerSlam.
Yeah. Or through a number of 3-ways involving the other factions in there. Yeah, it's just a way to rehab Ricochet coming off of last night. The match was really whatever. You know, after seeing all the great wrestling I've seen this weekend, I can't classify these weird 2-minute commercial break filled things as matches anymore. They're really more like demos or just like exhibitions of like wrestling moves. So if you enjoy it, then great. You might have enjoyed this. I do like the team of Ricochet with the Usos a lot. They have similar styles. I think it's a team, if you keep the three of them together, that might actually grab some of those coveted teenagers the same way, you know, high flyers such as the Hardy Boys, maybe other teams like that in the past might have. So I think they're probably working towards, obviously, a 3-way between both teams, but maybe AJ Ricochet for SummerSlam.
That seems where they're going. And maybe getting Anderson and Gallows.
The Usos.
With the Usos, maybe the Revival, some several team matchup for the Raw tag titles. Maybe they go that direction. Because I can't see them doing the Revival and Usos yet again without something added to it. And maybe Anderson and Gallows are that. Then we came back and we've got the official theme song for SummerSlam. It is Go by the Black Keys, which Renee remarks is a hell of an album.
Cool.
I like the Black Keys. Are you a Black Keys? You don't seem like a Black Keys fan.
Not so much.
All right. The Viking Raiders. First of all, if Aleister Black is moving out of the room, we might have 2 new occupants, everyone. Let me consult my notes. The Viking Raiders are not just a name. It's a way of life. We claim the brutality of our forefathers as our birthright, and we will rain down the savagery of the Norsemen on any fool who dares stand in the way of our raid. I don't know what they said here.
Oh, so they're crazy.
I tried to put this through Google Translate.
They're crazy. It's 2 guys who think that they're Vikings, which I think in real life that's what they are. So I guess this is not too far off. But the way the promo came across, I found it really cheesy. Like it was something from the 80s that didn't really make these 2 look all that cool.
Their opponents tonight were 2 gentlemen by the name of Jackson James and Vinnie Bruner. And this featured the Viking Raiders murdering these guys. There was a shotgun dropkick into the corner, seated splash by Ivar. Bruner got scoop slammed onto Eric's knee, and then the Viking Experience was hit onto both. In a minute 20, the Viking Raiders win with the Viking Experience. I cannot get those 2 terms straight. The Vikings, they won.
Yeah, it was fine. It was a squash match. It feels like we're we're traveling back to maybe like 2 months ago when they initially tried to do this, but never really followed up on it. So we're kind of redoing it. It's fine, you know. But I think they are misreading them by pushing them as heels. I find this to be very similar to what the Dark Order seems to be going through in AEW. Great in ring, but I think these gimmicks, by pushing them as heels, they just kind of come across as these like very dated, over the top, gimmicky heels from the 80s. I feel like if you push these guys as faces who just kick ass and, you know, maybe they just dress like this because it looks cool, like they were in NXT, I feel like that would have worked way better. They're certainly colder now than they were when they debuted.
What if they had masked Norsemen accompany them to the ring in the role of the Creepers?
Don't know if that would help, but yeah.
Maybe. Drew McIntyre was backstage earlier in the day, and he walked into the locker room featuring Cedric Alexander, Finn Balor, No Way Jose, and the Street Profits. I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall for this chat. And Drew confronted Cedric about last week, and he says the time has come to not just hurt Cedric, but disembowel and dismember you. Haha, just joking. But I will humble you, and I am going to completely eviscerate you. And Cedric says the joke will be on you, with the added emphasis of the glasses being taken off so that Drew could see right into his eyes. This is a man of passion.
But Cedric couldn't see his because he took his glasses off. Like if he had
really seeing triple hair,
if he had like really blurry vision, that'd be really funny. Yeah, whatever. This was like a good promo to lead to something to come later. So it's apparent that last week's really stupid angle involving Cedric Alexander is going to lead to some type of push.
And that is what we went into in the next match. Alexander early on hit a handspring enziguri, a tope con hero, and then Drew caught him with a belly-to-belly into the corner. Drew's in control, and Cedric stopped a vertical suplex, landed an elbow, and then Cedric caught Drew with a drop kick as Drew came off the top. Handspring gets blocked, and Drew's attacking him with punches in the corner, goes for the inverted Alabama slam, and Cedric counters with a victory roll and covers him in 3 minutes and 18 seconds, and everyone was stunned that Cedric pinned Drew McIntyre, which was quite the fall for Drew, who most of us were expecting, like, this is where you're going to set up Drew McIntyre and The Undertaker for SummerSlam. I didn't sense a trace of that tonight, and maybe that is not where Drew is headed for SummerSlam, at least not this week.
Certainly makes you question it, you know? Watching this, you would think that it would be a rematch between these two. It's interesting that Drew did not take the pinfall on the pay-per-view, but he lost here to Cedric. I think it's a pleasant surprise, you know? It almost makes up for how bad Cedric Alexander looked coming out of the ankle last week. But whenever these fluke wins happen with a small guy beating some type of, like, you know, main event level favorite, it's really easy to get excited when they occur, but so much of it depends on the follow-up, because next week, I mean, he could just squash Cedric and he'd be right back in the same place. So we'll see how they follow up with it before I make my judgment.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the other side. It's like I'm all for giving Cedric more, but to me, it's like Drew has been someone that they have, I won't say completely protected, but they've built him up so much that, like, if this is where you're cashing in your chips on the, you know, like, he just beat Roman Reigns not all that long ago, and he's been so protected, and now we're doing this with him.
It makes me feel like, though, they're not going to fully cash their chips in on Drew. It's not like Cedric's going to get, like, clean wins on Drew McIntyre, like, week after week. I feel like it'll just be like one of those respect things, or Drew just defeats him next week.
That could be where they go, and this was just simply to play off of last week, give Cedric something, and then Drew ultimately moves on. I cannot see these two going to SummerSlam. I think that Drew, you would figure, has a bigger plan, but absolutely no tease of The Undertaker. There was, outside of the recap, no mention of him tonight, so
we're also several weeks out. You know,
yeah, they do have time. And maybe, to be honest, like, next week you're going to have your biggest audience, and maybe that's the time to do something big if you have a big angle planned. So we'll see. Finn Balor is backstage, and he said last night was a tough night. This was kind of jarring. We went from him, like, joking around with the guys like 2 segments ago, and now he's like this super depressed loser from last night. And it was just so close to, like, it was right before the Cedric match. He's just joking around with the Street Profits and everyone.
He's a man of many emotions, I guess.
I guess so. He said that he lost the IC title to Nakamura. He does not dwell on the past. Well, maybe that's the secret. And he wants his title back, but tonight he is facing Samoa Joe, and he's going to get through him. And we immediately cut to Joe, who says, "You're going to do what?" And I don't know how he could hear this man across the building, but I kind of like the immediate response to the promo, just going from one shot to the next. And Joe was
gorilla.
I guess. Did he have a monitor there? Did he have an earpiece?
Vince probably played it for him.
Maybe Vince was like reading the promo for him off the script.
Sure.
In his best Finn Balor. Joe was also sporting a bit of a black eye on his left eye here, and he's going to be waiting to hand Finn another loss. And that took us to Joe and Balor. Balor started off with a headlock, and he got a headlock takeover. Joe got out, hit him with a chop. We go back to the headlock for Balor, and he goes for another headlock takeover, but Joe counters it with a crucifix, and he pins Finn Balor in a minute 24, and there is not even a moment of separation. They just continue. Joe rolls and applies a coquina clutch. Balor rolls out, stomps him on the chest, sling blade, John Woo dropkick, coup de grace. It was like, okay, Joe's winning, but our goal is to make you completely forget that Balor lost, all within 2.5 minutes.
And also make you forget that Joe won here in 2 minutes.
It was an afterthought. Like, this was the most, like, there wasn't even a second to announce Joe as the winner. Like, they just rolled right into this, and it was almost like, we're pinning Balor, but we don't want you to remember it.
Yeah.
We should mention Ryan Satin had a report tonight that Finn Balor is scheduled to be taking some time off later this summer. The date is not known exactly when he'll be taking this time off, but I did hear that that is happening. So it looks like Balor will be stepping away at some point this summer for some time off. So the lights go out, and they're flickering and going out, and it was funny because they were alluding to the power outages in New York over the weekend, which I thought was kind of funny that they were using that to try and explain these lights going out. And you can hear something going on in the ring, and then the light shines, and it's Bray Wyatt in his mask, and he got an enormous pop. He hits Balor with the Sister Abigail. The lights continue to flicker. This place went nuts, and then it just ends with Bray's cackle over the speakers to end the segment. I thought this was done very, very well.
I thought the Bray stuff was really cool.
Yeah, just the Joe and Balor was totally separate. I thought that was just very confusing and not even the direction we seem to be going with Balor. It looks like Balor will be Bray's first opponent. And yeah, it just seemed like, I don't even really know. It was almost an excuse just to get Finn Balor in the ring to do this segment with Bray. And the match was, we're just going to try and make you forget it instantly.
Well, we know they wanted to rehab Joe. At the same time, they were trying to serve Bray up to, or Finn Balor up to Bray. So they had a lot of masters to serve. And by the end of it, I think Joe was unfortunately the sacrifice that didn't really gain all that much. I mean, certainly he wasn't hurt, but at the same time, I don't necessarily feel like he was really rehabbed with the gimmick, with the segment like this. Nonetheless, I thought the Bray Wyatt stuff was really cool. We had wondered how they would translate the Funhouse stuff into a live setting. And here, I thought they served it really well.
Could you see them doing just Bray and Finn straight up at SummerSlam? Could you see him doing the Demon? Or to me, this is just like a setup for Bray to win. And yeah. I don't know if I'd use the Demon for that kind of a role.
No, I think you just have Bray defeat Finn Balor, whether on TV or at SummerSlam. Finn the Human, I think he'll beat. And then the Demon will have to come back to avenge the loss, and you get the Demon versus...
That's a great idea. That's actually a great idea. Bray should give him a beating at SummerSlam. Finn goes away, and it's this devastating loss, and he comes back in a few months as the Demon. I like that a lot, actually.
Otherwise, I mean, why do Finn Balor? You could do everybody else, but the Demon versus this. What's the character called? Even what does he call this specific monster?
I don't know.
I feel like he's got one of the names for it, but anyway.
The Fiend, isn't it?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
I mean, that's a natural match.
This got over really well, though. You know, for the first time, we're introducing this Bray Wyatt character into the arena setting. Granted, this was limited, but I thought this worked out very well. The mask looks super cool, and the crowd really got into this. So I thought this was a win. Throughout the night, we got a series of promos for next week's Raw, and new names being promoted include Mick Foley, Patterson and Briscoe, Lillian Garcia, Alundra Blaze. The Godfather was shown in one of the spots, Booker T, Mark Henry, Kelly, Rikishi, Road Dogg, Ron Simmons, and the main eventer, move aside Steve Austin, Sid, will be at Raw next week.
That's the one that definitely surprised, I think, me and a lot of people. A name that we haven't heard from in years.
He did Raw 1000. That was like 7 years ago. He did that. Show. He did do Raw 1000.
Wow.
So, he did something with Heath Slater on that show, I remember. But outside of that, he has not been one of the go-to people that they call on for these kinds of things.
Yeah, I'll take your word for it. I totally forget, but you're right. Yeah, he had a match with Heath Slater. Jeez.
So anyway, that's next week's show, and it just seems like everybody is getting contacted for this. Jim Ross confirmed that he had been invited and turned it down. Bully Ray had stated he received an invite. So I imagine this was we're going to contact everybody, and we'll figure out how to work everyone into this. So I'm expecting a lot of, we'll get some poker games. We're going to get some random people running backstage, because I don't know how they're going to, even with 3 hours, how they'll fit all these people, because there's probably a ton more on top of what they've announced. You're going to have surprises. You're going to have, it just seems like everyone's going to get an invite for this.
Catering's going to be really busy.
It's going to be very busy, yes. What did you think about the push for this Raw? It's, in other years, they've used a month to build this up. How did you think for a week, how do you think they did tonight, just building this up to be a special Raw next week?
Well, I think word travels pretty fast these days online. I mean, often they can announce something an afternoon and generate enough buzz for the weekend. So I would say, I think people who are watching Raw still live are going to be well aware of it. I think it's enough.
They'll probably plug the hell out of this over the next week, and USA will as well. All the big names are coming back, led by Austin. So I think this will be promoted very heavily over the next 7 days.
Yep.
Drake Maverick and Renee were... Their goal was to have sex on this show. They were checking into a hotel, and they brought a cameraman with them, and which is to each their own. They had Drake register under the name 24/7 Champion, and Renee got very upset that he registered under the name 24/7 Champion, and he explained, well, if I said I was Mr. Maverick, that would give it away. I just thought that was really hilarious. And she orders the most expensive champagne. He pays the guy off in cash, and then they head off to their room. And then R-Truth is lurking behind the check-in area with a referee, and he goes to the same guy and asks for a guest named Hornswoggle, and then offers to bribe him for information. And if you look closely, it appeared to be a $1 bill that he paid this guy off with. And
it worked.
It worked. This guy had he was easily accessible for information, and I guess could also translate what Hornswoggle meant.
Yeah. Well, he must be a fan.
Then we got an unbelievable moment in Raw history. We went to the Street Profits watching this on the monitor. So we have revealed that everyone can watch this.
People watch Raw on the monitors all the time.
But this was like an on-location segment. So we're now establishing in this production that this is airing on Raw.
Right. Okay. Unless these private party segments are supposed to be, like behind the fourth wall. Are they observers like we are?
It would be funny if the Street Profits had never interacted with any of the talent. They were just in their own world on this show, but they have interacted with the performers and such. But
right.
I'm still trying to figure out their role. They're really getting through on their delivery and their characters. And yeah, we'll see where this ultimately goes with these two. So they can't believe that Drake Maverick has not consummated his marriage yet. They then preview the women's four-way. They're going with the story that Angelo Dawkins has a thing for Nikki Cross, and then they make their picks for the Battle Royal, where Dawkins is picking Big E, and Montez Ford is picking Seth Rollins. One would be right.
What's that?
One would be right.
One would be right, yeah. I think these are actually like good segments, but they do feel a little awkward when they stop for all those pauses and there's just silence in the background. I don't know if it's because this audience is actually not reacting to it, or if they're lowering the crowd mics for some of these, but they pause so much, like seemingly for reaction, but to hear silence where that reaction would be makes these feel a little bit flat.
Then we had our next match. Zack Ryder on Long Island.
Yeah.
I don't think he got a reaction of a hometown hero in this. I didn't even realize till the end that
he didn't even have an entrance.
No, he was just in the ring, and we cut to the back, and Mike Kanellis is getting ready to come out, and Maria walks up to him and says she is going to take the match, and he says, "You can't take this match. You're pregnant." Maria calls him,
"And you're a woman."
And you're a woman. Yes, this is not allowed in this company. Unless we're on an Extreme Rules pay-per-view and we need an end to a match. Maria calls him a loser and says that she has a better chance of defending the honor of their unborn child than he does. So Maria storms out, and a referee is out there trying to stop her. Mike runs out, says, "I've got this." And he enters the ring. He's hit with a Rough Rider and pinned in 9 seconds, which the announcer states the winner of the match in less than 1 minute. It's like in less than 10 seconds he won this match. Maria's pissed, and she says, "Our unborn child," before she corrects herself and says, "My unborn child had a better chance in that ring than you did tonight." And she walked out as this poor guy is just 50 feet under.
Yeah, man. These continue to be, if anything, at least interesting. But I don't know. They've received no reaction at all live. I don't know if it was even meant to, or if it was just meant to like shock people, and I don't know. But like I'm watching these, and I really can't help but feel like I'm just watching some dude's like cuckold fantasy play out for his own enjoyment, and I feel like what I'm saying right there is not too far from the truth.
Yeah, it just seems to be a very, like, it's allowing Maria to just play like this crazy lady, and it just seems as though
what
it's like,
end?
I don't know. I don't think they're unless like they're not really hitting it hard. The idea of like who's the father, it just seems more like Maria's pregnant and hates her husband who's gotten her pregnant. That's the gimmick.
Yeah. It's like there's no match at the end of this that we can think about. I don't know who it's helping, really.
It's not helping Mike, and it's really awkward because on 205 Live, he's playing a totally different character where he's the guy that is pissed off that when Drake Maverick got moved from 205 Live to also doing the 24/7 stuff, they started this story where Mike is complaining that Drake Maverick, his priorities are elsewhere and they should be on 205 Live. So that's been his whole thing. Now he's doing the exact same thing, and on 205 Live, like, he's playing this guy who's trying to be like the disruptor on the show, and it's clearly building up to a match with Mike Kanellis and Drake Maverick, but the two are playing totally different characters on Raw, and like 205 Live, they're just trying to make sense of it. Like, there's a line last week where Drake is trying to calm down Mike and say, "Listen, I know this business can have a lot of problems in your personal life. I'm experiencing that too right now with Renee." And it's like they're trying to make sense of the Raw stuff on 205 Live, and it's it's like they're trying their best, but they're in two different universes on Monday and Tuesday nights.
I mean, they do stuff like that, and it's clear to me that the company at large does not give a shit about 205 Live. And that means I have no reason to watch it, which is a shame because I know there's so many talented people on that roster in the matches. Everybody busts their ass. But when you just like shit on all those storylines like that with like this, I I just can't take it seriously.
A promo ran for SmackDown on Tuesday night, and they're promoting a SmackDown Town Hall. They really missed the boat. It should have been a Smack Town Hall.
No, they didn't.
Okay. Everyone will get to speak their mind, and this is basically promoting Shane McMahon's feud with Kevin Owens and whatever the next step in that feud is. So I imagine Kevin Owens maybe crashes this thing after he's told he can't enter the building or something, and we get the next progression of that feud, and Shane blows a gasket, and we get our SummerSlam match. That's where I think this is going.
Sure, yeah. Sounds plausible. Sounds like what they would do with the Steve Austin clone, yeah.
I was thinking about this after we talked about it. Do you like the idea of Austin and Owens doing something next week, or does it make Owens look like the junior version of the real thing?
I think they're already...
Depending on how they do it.
But I think they're already doing that. They gave him he's doing the stunner. So
they're doing the stunner. I do think Owens has some momentum right now that he hasn't had in a long time. And it's...
I think, yeah. But I think you capitalize on it by drawing the association with Steve Austin. I mean, I think you have to do it in a cool way that doesn't.
Yeah, don't make him look like he's
just a fanboy.
It's like an idol worship segment. Like Owens has to look like he's his equal, and not like, oh my god, I'm a fan of this is my favorite wrestler kind of segment, because that's death.
But I feel like it'll be more like the fan thing.
AJ Styles, Luke Gallows, and Karl Anderson versus the Lucha House Party. This was great because I don't know if they had a concern that people were going to tune away from this match, but Michael Cole prefaced by saying, "We promise this is going to be a competitive match here." And boy, was it competitive. We got the advantage on Grand Metalik right away. Anderson and Gallows double team them, and then Ricochet shows up, pulling AJ off the apron and beats him down on the floor. And the officials have to pull off Ricochet, and then they broke for commercial. And this was like the closest we've gotten to a slow easing away from the hard line of these commercials. Because when we came back, the match was going on. There was no bell to restart it. It was just the match was continuing.
What a revolutionary change.
And the world still didn't fall apart.
At this point, though, why even do the reset at all?
Well, it was like they said they were going to reset when they went to break, but it's not like we had to go the extra step with the stupid bell ringing when we come back. They just went right back into the match. And I think that this is like the slow movement away from these commercials. At least it was one example of doing it. And like, I never thought that commercial thing was going to stick, and we'll see if it does or not. Clearly there's evidence on this show that they're still going with it, but it seemed less pronounced on this show. And I think they're just going to, throw their scripts in the air one week and say, this is way too much work.
Yeah.
So anyway, the match continues. Lince Dorado hit a springboard stunner onto Anderson. Kalisto came in, got caught with a spinebuster for Anderson. Gallows and Anderson hit the boot of doom, and then Styles applied the calf crusher. Kalisto tapped out, and Styles would not release the hold, and eventually did, and it was just a strong win for the heels. AJ is despicable, and we're going towards him and Ricochet.
Yeah, I thought this was a fun match that made the club look very strong, very mean. They're successfully, I think, refreshing themselves into a serious threat in at least this Raw tag team / mid-card division. They're dropping all the hot Asian wife stuff, which I never thought really worked out for them, and they're just instead destroying everybody. So I think they're establishing themselves well.
Sarah Schreiber interviewed Seth Rollins. He is spent both physically and emotionally, and he's got to watch Brock walking around with a title he does not deserve. He is possessed, and he says that Becky is one of the toughest women that he has ever met, and she's going to be okay. He's unsure if she's going to show up tonight, but Corbin found out what happens when he's pushed too far, and that's what's in store for anyone in his path back to the title, and he will beat anyone until he fights Lesnar and beats Lesnar. And this was a much-needed Seth Rollins promo that I was not feeling awkward watching. This was a breath of fresh air from Seth Rollins, I thought.
Yeah, I think anything would have been better than, the whole month we had of him awkwardly talking with Becky. But this is a Rollins I like. It's a Rollins that's hungry and who's really angry and wanting to get revenge.
Then we went to the fatal 4-way elimination match between Alexa Bliss, Carmella, Naomi, and Natalya. The winner would face Becky Lynch at SummerSlam. And Becky comes out. She is limping down the ramp, and she sits ringside for this entire match. Natalya and Naomi were down early, and Carmella just kept going for covers on both of them while screeching, while each of them kicked out multiple times. Carmella hit the Mela go round to Natalya after a Hurricane Rana off the top. And then Alexa is hiding on the floor with Nikki Cross, sneaks in, rolls up Carmella for the first elimination in 3 minutes and 2 seconds. We go to a break. We come back. The crowd is really not into this. Bliss goes back to the floor with Nikki. So Naomi hits Natalya with a blockbuster off the steps. And then Bliss capitalizes by attacking Naomi from behind, throws her into the ring. And then Naomi hits a bubble bomb and a Gato clutch for a 2 count. Then Natalya applies the surfboard and Alexa goes for the cover. And Bliss distracts. Natalya hits a spinning power bomb. And again, Bliss tries a double cover and Naomi kicks out. And I think that this was just a slow match. Some of the kicks, some of the offense was like, it was really off. And I think the crowd, they were trying to be as patient, but when they realized this match just keeps going and it's dead, they finally just hit a boiling point and they start chanting, "This is awful," at this match. And like, this was not a good match at this point. No. There were these bad kicks by Alexa to Natalya in the corner, like stuff that's just, it's like missing by a wide margin. Naomi does the splits on the apron to kick down Bliss, and then Natalya catches her and stacks her for the next elimination after rolling through on a sunset flip. And we are down to Alexa and Natalya. The crowd is just hating this match, and I would guess this was an audible call because Nikki gets onto the microphone and demands that everyone cheer for her friend Alexa. And to their credit, the audience did start yelling. They got into it. But then Nikki starts yelling at the crowd to shut up, which is the last thing I think you wanted this crowd to do. The audience did wake up at the end.
I mean, I think that was the intended point, was if you yell at them to shut up, they won't
do the reverse psychology, yes.
Yeah.
And it worked. It worked. They got into the end of this. They were chanting, "You suck." And then Natalya hit a discus clothesline that missed Alexa and took out Nikki Cross on the floor. She rolls Bliss into the ring, applies the sharpshooter, and Alexa taps out. This match went 23 minutes and 28 seconds. This was longer than anything on the pay-per-view.
I'm amazed. I'm really amazed because that any match goes for this long anymore. And certainly not a match like this without that much star power attached to it. Alexa Bliss is popular, but I think you have 3 other people who have not been on TV in matches, at least, in months. So,
there was no emotional favorite to win this match that you were really rooting for.
I mean, the emotional favorite was sitting ringside in Becky Lynch.
Exactly. And sorry. I thought, to me, of all the people out there that I would want to see win this, it was Nikki Cross up until recently, like, to be honest, and she wasn't even in the match.
And in this match, she turned pretty much full on heel, like telling the crowd to shut up and everything. So I feel like that boat's kind of sailed. I was interested to see if like they would go on with like an Alexa Nikki storyline with Alexa being pissed at Nikki, but that didn't really occur. Alexa not seemingly upset at all about the loss last night. But the match itself, I mean, people might look at this as like somebody's going to be out there trying to reframe this as like a, one of those like audiences shitting on like a women's match. This was not it. This was an audience shitting on a shitty match. And I felt like that this was awful chant was completely warranted. It was a boring match. A ton of chin locks that just seemed to go on forever. Chin lock after chin lock after chin lock. So many chin locks that I felt like, did they forget something? Are they just sitting here because they don't know where to go next? I don't know, but something felt really off about it. It was, I think, one of the worst matches of the year.
Yeah, this just, like, this idea of sending these women out for 23 and a half minutes was just crazy. And in a city like Long Island, that, I mean, it's not going to be your hottest market to begin with. Like, it's like Long Island, sorry to say, like, does not have a great rep for that. So I just thought this was like poorly thought out. And you're right, like, you didn't have that person, that babyface in this match, or even the heel that people were really genuinely behind, that really wanted to see win this. Like, you didn't have that. So this was just, it was poorly planned out and poorly executed. Yeah, that was that.
I feel bad for somebody like Natalya, because this was supposed to be her springboard towards a title match. But, let's I don't completely...
What have they done to prepare for this
exactly.
moment?
Like, Natalya hasn't been on TV in a segment in months. Neither has Naomi. So there's really, like, no favor built along with the chase, other than the fact that she's Canadian and this pay-per-view is taking place in Toronto. That might work, but it's not going to work in Long Island.
Well, if you're going back to watch this, I'd say skip the match and watch the promo afterwards. That was the strength of this. Charlie interviews Natalya. She just says, Lexi sucks. And then says, what a difference a year makes, alluding to, last year, the week of SummerSlam, her father passed away. And now she's going to her home country to face her friend, Becky Lynch. And Becky storms into the ring. They're chanting for Becky. She doesn't care if she's hurt. It's time to drop the smiles, and says that at SummerSlam, you're not taking on your friend, and you better step up or I'm going to wipe the floor with you in your home country. And your career needs something, and I'm it. And I do a lot better in war than I do in love. So Natalya responds, well, you better not be a very good lover, bitch. And says, this is going to be a war, and I'm going to rip that greasy orange mop off your head, and I'm going to pull the horseshoe out of your ass and beat the living hell out of you. This was a line out of Brock Lesnar's UFC 100 speech about taking the horseshoe out of Frank Mir's ass and beating him over the head with it. And
I wonder if that had the same writer as this.
I bet you it did. And last week was the 10-year anniversary of UFC 100. So I imagine someone saw that clip and that was a good line to use.
Or the guy who came out with it originally, maybe.
Perhaps so, yes. There was no mention of Coors Light here by Natalya. That would have been the exclamation point on this promo. But I thought the post-match, people got into that part. You at least gave a story for this match, but the match was a disaster. I can't really sugarcoat it.
The post-match saved it, I thought. The segment ended strong. I thought Becky, who everybody was here to see and wanted to hear from, delivered her lines well, and I thought Natalya delivered her lines very well. They were well scripted, gave her some attitude, very much needed attitude that I don't think Natalya has shown in a long, long time in her WWE career. Making full use of the permission to say the word bitch, and I thought used effectively here, and great passion with those final lines. So she showed good fire here, and in the end, that's really all that matters. I think people over time forget. I mean, probably by tomorrow, or by next week at least, people will forget about the match. They'll see this promo in the highlight packages week after week, and Toronto will give her a great reaction.
And ultimately, I think that she is the best choice of the four that they put in this match, because Becky needs to have a great match, and Natalya is probably the best choice that they had here to do that. You're going to get a great reaction in Toronto, and for Becky, post Ronda, post Charlotte, I mean, it's not been a stellar run. So at the very least, I think you can have a good build up and hopefully a hot match at SummerSlam.
I would actually say Natalya seems to me a lot more appropriate for, I would say, a show like Extreme Rules. I just don't necessarily see her as a mainstream level star that they've been promoting. I think is worthy of a Becky Lynch SummerSlam main event. But
who is though?
That's the point. There. What I mean is it's a very thin roster on the Raw side right now, and going with I think the home country participant in Natalya probably is their best choice.
Randy Orton did a promo. He's got unfinished business with Brock Lesnar, and he carries venom that will slay the beast. And he was the only promo for the Battle Royal guys, I guess, other than Rollins.
And Braun said some words in the back before he came out.
Oh, that's right. The Miz comes out from Miz TV, and his guest is Dolph Ziggler, who has requested to be on the show. He wanted to see if Miz is a company yes man that reads off the teleprompter. Miz says, I'm just happy to be here. I'm not trying. And Ziggler says, that's your problem. You're just happy to be here. You no longer are trying to prove to people wrong about you. And he asks about Miz and if it's worth kissing all that ass to not even be booked on the pay-per-view. Miz says, well, I'd rather be off the pay-per-view than losing in 17 seconds. Ziggler says, you're right. That was bad. That was Goldberg bad. And
shots fired. Damn.
Yes. Well, you know what? It's actually a smart line, because if Goldberg legitimately got pissed about that line, Ziggler could say, I mean, like I lost really quickly in a squash, which was your gimmick. Even though I think everyone knew what he meant.
Maybe he means
plausible deniability is the key in wrestling.
Maybe he means Mike Goldberg.
Yeah, exactly. He didn't specify.
Not a fan of Mike Goldberg.
Everyone jumping to conclusions. Yes. Because just like that, it is all over.
Yes.
Ziggler calls him a walking gimmick, and you're not even from Long Island, and you're wearing a Long Island t-shirt. And he's become everyone he hates because he just cares about fortune and fame, just like your wife.
Yeah.
And Miz is like, you fucking prick. And he jumps Dolph, and they fight. And I guess this is where we're going. Miz and Ziggler.
We've had
good matches in the past.
Yeah, but I didn't really care then, and I certainly don't really care about it in 2019 when both of their stocks have been incredibly cold recently. I know this is like, to me, Ziggler is just like, he can only do so much to, I think, spark my interest. And certainly it becomes that much tougher if it's in a feud with another guy who is in the very much the same position as he is. In the mid card, they're both lifers. I think both men that are desperately in need of makeovers, probably haven't had them, probably won't get them. And to me, it's just like, I would rather see them as a team, you know? That might be something different. That might be unique, but as a matchup, a SummerSlam matchup even, oh man.
Well, that's what I thought. During this segment, like I'm watching this and I'm just thinking in my head, like we're getting like 17 matches at SummerSlam if we're shooting angles for Ziggler and Miz.
Yeah. I mean, it's supposed to be. I get. How long do you think it'll go? The show.
I think with if you say 5 p.m. is the start time, I think it's going at least till 11, if not past 11.
Yeah.
I'll say like 11:15. That's a long night. It's the longest party of the summer. That's what they should call it.
Yeah.
Drake Maverick is in the hotel room with roses and teasing that we're going to get to see sex coming up next. And Corey says, I pay a subscription for stuff like this. Corey actually had some great lines.
He did.
Coming in and out of this segment.
This was his
We come
segment.
back. Yep. Renee is off changing. And there is Drake, who proclaims that Daddy's ready for love. And we reveal that he's doing his best Shawn Michaels here, wearing the title, and apparently nothing else, although they did prepare for some coverage. The door knocks, and a supposed bellman walks in with the champagne and wheels in a little, whatever it's...
Cart.
That's the word I'm looking for. And... they're like getting ready to like have sex, and then they realize the referee or the bellman is still there.
You had Drake
tells him to leave.
Yeah, it was Drake telling what you would assume to be his erection to
Yeah, he was about to have a false finish before the match.
Or a match that didn't start at all.
So then R-Truth sneaks out from the cart where he's hidden, and he rolls up Drake Maverick, who is wearing underwear, for a 2 count. Roses are thrown, and then Truth pins Maverick on the bed while Renee is screaming. And it ends by cutting to Corey, Michael Cole, and Renee. And Corey says, I would have utilized the small package. And this just killed Renee. She thought this was the funniest thing ever, and it was a very good line.
The line was great, but seeing Renee and Cole crack up in a very genuine reaction, I thought really made the segment. I thought this was a lot of fun. You know, I think this is exactly what the 24/7 belt was made for. Stupid comedy segments like this, and then so that you can go on a Wikipedia at some point in the future, 5 years from now, and trace the history of this 24/7 belt and read that R-Truth pin Drake Maverick in a bed in a hotel room on the night that he was supposed to consummate his marriage to win the 24/7 belt. It's just ridiculousness, and I thought it was well set up. It continues this, I think, magnificent run Drake Maverick has been having. His wife is also a great performer. She did well here as well, and R-Truth totally shines. So these three continue to be creating some very entertaining segments.
They recapped the ESPY Awards, got a shot of Daniel Cormier on Raw, and then it's time for the main event, the cross-branded all-star top 10 over the top rope number 1 contenders final elimination battle royal to determine the challenger for the Universal title at WWE SummerSlam.
Bingo. Got it.
All of the guys are out. We go to a commercial. Brock and Heyman are out as well, and they just sit and watch. And you know what I liked about this battle royal so much, Way? It started at 10:48. We weren't going to get a 25-minute battle royal. It was just going to be over and done with in under 8 minutes.
Hard to fit a commercial break, I suppose, in a battle royal. I guess you could restart anything these days, but...
Cesaro got his shine in early. He did these non-stop running uppercuts to everybody, and then goes to give Ray the Cesaro swing, and then Lashley military presses Cesaro up and over to the floor. And Cesaro, he had a great 24 hours, but a loser in both.
Unfortunate, but at least he was considered part of the top 10.
Yeah, I mean, his ranking went up yesterday, so he shouldn't be turned off by a loss.
Yeah, and I think if anything, it shows you that they are taking him seriously. He was one of the few who had time to really shine in this match.
Braun then launches Lashley to the floor, who's got taped ribs. Big E did a face-off with Braun and hit the big ending, and then turned around into an RKO, and Sami Zayn tossed out Big E, and people were disappointed. Zayn starts celebrating. He's hit with an RKO, a 619, and then Orton eliminates Zayn. There's an RKO to Reigns, a 619 to Reigns, and Reigns, I guess the 619 gave him powers, recuperative powers, because he just fired off a Superman punch to Randy Orton. Corbin then grabs Ray, and of course just tosses Ray to the floor. Everyone's pissed. Strowman, Reigns, and Rollins stare down Corbin, and it includes a drive-by, a super kick, and then Corbin gets sent out by Seth. Reigns misses Strowman and spears Seth, and then Braun sends Reigns over the top to the edge of the apron. Reigns does the Chris Benoit Big Show spot with the guillotine, trying to pull Braun over the top to the floor, and then Seth nails both of them and knocks over Braun. This is like the Shawn Michaels Diesel elimination spot from the 94 Rumble, where Seth goes to hit one guy, but then ends up also eliminating his friend in Roman Reigns. And I really like this spot because it teased something with Seth and Reigns. And also, like, there was the spear spot just moments ago that Reigns accidentally hit Seth with. And this got rid of Reigns. Probably to some people's surprise.
Yeah, certainly. I wonder if they'll follow up with it. But, I mean, it's a Rumble. It's a Battle Royal. So I don't necessarily sense them going too much in the dissension angle between the two of them. But they could.
When this was down to these guys, I was starting to think, oh my God, we're getting a multi-person match at SummerSlam. So I was happy when Braun and Reigns were out. And then Randy Orton returns, and I had he had been thrown through the middle rope to the floor, and I definitely forgot about him. He comes back in, and he nails Seth with a draping DDT, and the crowd is like getting into Orton actually winning this. He calls for the RKO. It's stopped by Seth, and Seth proceeds to hit him with the stomp and then eliminates Randy Orton in 7:52, and Rollins is the winner.
I like the final sequences of the Battle Royal. I mean, overall, it was felt like a 8-minute something Battle Royal. Yep. And I think a good way to, rebuild somebody for a championship match. I always enjoy them. They're nice and simple and they do the job. But, I don't know if I'm that excited for a Rollins-Brock rematch at SummerSlam.
I don't think they did enough from last night to tonight that, I'm kind of with you. Like, it did. I don't think it blows people away that they're just doing this singles match again.
We just saw it at WrestleMania. I'm trying to even think back of what I felt about the match.
It was I mean, it was like relatively quick. It opened the show and was like, what, a 5-minute match?
Yeah.
So this is going to be them doing the full out match, I would assume. Whereas WrestleMania, I guess that's their argument, that you really didn't get the full match out of them at WrestleMania, and you will now.
Yeah, I guess, but I just don't necessarily know if the demand is there to see what this match looks like anyway. Whereas Kofi versus Brock really did feel like a fresh matchup that I think a lot of people would have been a lot more interested in, just for the story involved. To see Kofi potentially beat Brock Lesnar, being his biggest win to date, I feel like there was a lot more there. But nonetheless, they decided to go this route, which I think is the safer route, and I think the less interesting route.
And it ended with Heyman announcing him the winner. Rollins told him to shut up and said what he did to Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania, he's going to do again and be champion again. A lot of agains used. A
little strange. It felt like they had a bit of time to fill here, and some of the exchanges didn't feel completely smooth, and the way they went off air didn't feel completely smooth either. But it's part of live TV.
If you were putting this together, what would have been your pick for Brock's match at SummerSlam? What do you think would have been the most compelling?
Kofi
versus Lesnar?
Yeah.
Oh, I see what you mean, but not putting the title on Lesnar.
I would have had Lesnar take Kofi.
Or you just do the same thing where he cashes in on Kofi.
Yes.
See. Right.
Yes.
All right. Well, that was Raw. Coming off of last week's Raw, this was the greatest 3-hour show in history. So I certainly saw this was not at the level of 2 weeks ago, but not at the level of last week either. So it was somewhere in the middle.
Somewhere in the middle, and I would say, I think something that more equated to like your average Raw, maybe slightly above average even, because average Raw has been pretty bad as of late. So this was at least better than that. I can't say there was much in the way of good matches. In fact, there was a really bad match in the middle of all this.
It went almost 25 minutes. Yeah. Like a significant portion of Raw was a very bad match.
Yes. The whole commercial break thing continues. Again, like, I've seen so much good wrestling over the past week that's been kind of like unhindered with these weird commercial break things that I no longer watch Raw for good wrestling anymore. I watch Raw to stay up to date with storylines, to see what potential, good promos may exist, maybe interesting segments. But wrestling, you only get previews. You're only getting moves here on WWE TV show. Don't expect good matches anymore when you're watching Raw, which is unfortunate, but that's, I think, the reality. So I can't say any of these matches were good, but they laid the foundation for a number of SummerSlam programs, which you might like or might not like, but they did the work to get there at least.
Yeah. The positives on the show, I really like the reintroduction of Bray. Setting that up with Finn. I like that a lot. I like the Styles Ricochet interactions throughout the show. I think they added like an edge to that program, and I have high hopes for that match in Toronto, presuming they do it at SummerSlam. And I would say those, and the Natalya promo with Becky was desperately needed after that match.
They at least nailed that. Yeah.
All right. What do you give this show?
I say a 5.5.
I was going to go 5. The audience on the forum gave it a 4.65. So you and I didn't go too much higher than the forum. Paul from New Jersey writes, I was incredibly impressed with Drew McIntyre's promo. The guy has really become an excellent performer in all facets of the game. Saying Cedric Alexander shocked the world last week is like saying the LA Rams shocked the New England Patriots in the Super Bowl. I'm officially nominating Mike and Maria for Worst Angle of the Year. I'm not saying they will be victorious, but it's always nice to be nominated. I attended Extreme Rules, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. However, these TVs tend to be lacking. Some good stuff, some bad stuff, and a cool spot from Bray Wyatt, 5.5. Your winner in less than a minute, Paul from New Jersey.
Yep. Jalen from Pickering, who says, I haven't watched it in a long time, but was hoping for an interesting main event. That did not happen, as all of the interesting options got eliminated early on, and the crowd was basically dead from the women's match on. The Fiend's debut was great, but whatever they did with Hiroki Goto and Finn before was stupid and pointless. Both of these men lost last night. Granted, half of the main event had lost their matches too, so I guess it doesn't matter.
There's a funny story to that. Sean Ross Sapp pointed out from Fightful that Joe is now 0-8 in like his title matches for whether it's the Universal or WWE title. So he really is Hiroki Goto. Andrew from Cape Breton. Raw was weird tonight. This comes up constantly when matches like these occur, but I hate when they have losers from the pay-per-view or just recently on television be in contention for one of the top titles. I echo that same sentiment. I understand that a lot of the guys were at the SmackDown show, but I still think that's a valid criticism.
They also just don't think that far ahead, and I don't. The problem is AJ was already tied up in a program. Finn was already tied up in a segment. Your real top 10 is actually tied up with other things, and for some excuse to put on a battle royal, they needed to call them all-stars or call them the top 10 when obviously that's not the case. So maybe better wording of what they called this match would have been better. But anyway,
think about this. Xavier Woods worked on the SmackDown house show. So that means they pulled Big E from the SmackDown house show to be in this battle royal.
Yeah.
So it has to be a thought of, well, we can't pull someone too important, and Big E fits the role of someone will I can understand they don't want to beat Aleister Black. I do kind of understand that, and it's probably the same with Kevin Owens, but it does make it complicated when you're trying to put the top contenders into a match. You're also trying to protect guys, and you don't want to leave a house show bare. And then you get something like this, where it's just very strange.
They have too much to do.
In regards to the Battle Royal, the match name was just a run-on sentence. You see something like that in the feedback for Rewind to Raw. I'll try to be positive tonight. I like the use of the Street Profits. Seems like they don't have anything for them, but it looks like WWE is just trying to establish their personalities and their promo style with talking about what is happening on Raw. They don't even have to sound like brooding 15-year-olds. They just don't have to sound like that. I like the Viking Raiders and squash matches. I like WWE establishing the club in a competitive match with the Lucha House Party. Generally, the show is okay. 5 out of 10 show.
Dave in Boston, from my perspective, being from Dublin, when Becky was chasing the title and feuding with Rousey, she was doing some great work on the mic. Now that she's champ, the shtick has gotten a little tiresome. The whole stuff with Rollins was god-awful, but I am intrigued with this Natalya angle, how they go. It has potential. I had high hopes that they would go with a fresh storyline to challenge Brock, like Randy Orton. He was looking so good in the match, getting a great reaction, and the history of their previous SummerSlam matches with the blood could have been played up really well. That's right. Alas, we go back to the same old Rollins. Rollins does nothing for me. Sure, he's a good wrestler, but he has no charisma or believability to be the top guy, in my opinion. Looking forward to next week's Raw with all the legends. I hope it's better than Raw 25.
Yeah, which was not a good show.
Yeah.
At least they're in one building this time. Noah from Vaughn, for a 3-hour show, I felt this dragged so much, especially during the 4-way, which felt like an hour on its own. After all the wrestling you guys have watched this weekend, for your own sake, I'm hoping for an amazing show. Such a shame.
If we're including this, it was certainly the worst match of the weekend. Or worst show of the weekend, I mean. Jay from Colorado, after a pretty decent Extreme Rules where we were blessed with the return of Aleister Black's squeaky ramp entrance, I was optimistic that Raw would be a decent show. It wasn't. There were some okay segments and Bray's return was awesome, but it just seems like business as usual again. Here's a question. What happened to Robert Roode's amazing mustache? As quick as
what he had. He had the mustache.
Yes, the mustache. As quick as it came into our lives, it was gone. I mourn for it. Well, I guess he hasn't been on TV in a while, and just in that time, that thing grew back.
It's in the WWE warehouse next to Cody's.
It really was great. I don't know. Maybe somebody told them they didn't like it.
I totally forgot about that thing. I haven't thought of that thing once. Alex from Maple. Started good, but then died something fierce. The Joe Balor match made no sense. Natalya winning really killed any buzz because no one cares. I disagree. I think people got into Natalya at the end, and I think that she will have... I think doing that in Toronto, it'll get a good reaction. Not hyped for SummerSlam. We already saw Rollins and Lesnar at Mania. Does anyone care about Natty? I hate that they are shoving... Man, he's really got it out for Natalya here. In both paragraphs, he goes out of his way to disparage Natalya.
Well, I mean, he's just telling us, I think, what is indicative of a lack of push for Natalya over the past several months. She really has not been... Like, you would expect somebody to be built up for a SummerSlam to receive at least some form of momentum on the undercard through, wins over other talents. But Natalya has gotten none of that. She hasn't even had airtime or story, so I don't completely disagree with Alex because they haven't been building this title contention, I think, all that effectively. We go to Brandon from New Jersey, who says, "Greetings, my comme des garçons. I'm back. Been a while since we spoke. I know some have missed me and some didn't, but hey, it be what it be. Hey, Heavy is the head who wears the crown, but nobody want the smoke from the Calico Kid. Nah, I mean, shit. Anywho, Raw, like a roller coaster, it had a lot of ups and downs from Paul Heyman giving a pep talk to the roster in the back with his zoot to that Marathon Women's Greatest Battle Royal. It was tolerable. Onward and upward to the road to SummerSlam. With Finn taking a sabbatical after SummerSlam, will he be shown dignity before he departs? What does that mean? What's dignity? Like,
I think your idea is what they should do. It's like, I think he should lose at SummerSlam, and then he comes back with a revenge program with Bray. I think that's a really good way to do it.
This is not somebody taking his ball and going home. This is a man who, is making, I think, a very, a much needed request for what sounds like a bit of a personal break. That's all. So I don't think he'll lose on his way out because they want to set up probably a rematch. Mm-hmm. He says, John, your tag partner who shall not be named called you a hype beast. How do you feel about that? Are you both trendy with the threads? What are your fave kicks or loafers for 2019?
I have absolutely no idea what he's talking about.
What was the bigger one-hit wonder, Chumbawamba or the 2019 Toronto Raptors?
Oh, man. Too soon. That's really... Man, I'll tell you this, though. The Toronto Raptors, we get knocked down, but we get up again. You're never going to keep us down.
We'll see. That's it. I'm not reading the rest.
All right. Ventak from Mumbai. Raw fucking sucked tonight. After all the great wrestling this weekend, Raw was just terrible. I now officially hate 2 out of 3 falls matches. Why do they not play around with the gimmick by having the match end at 2 falls? I don't understand the logic of Finn versus Joe. If Finn is going on a hiatus, why not have him lose and then have Bray attack him? Seeing Bray was pretty cool. The Mike and Maria angle is my pick for worst angle of the year. The women's match was so long, I may have reached a resting heart rate of 50. Drake Maverick and R-Truth was fun and probably my high point of the show. 2 out of 10 for me. Haven't caught up with night 4 of the G1, but apparently Chris Charlton being off the commentary is a call by TV Asahi and not by New Japan. I really like Chris in that 3-man booth with Kelly and Romero. Did you guys hear anything about this? Well, other than what's been reported and the fact that Chris has not been heavily featured on... He was not on today's show, but he may have never been scheduled for today's show. He wasn't scheduled for all the G1s, but yes, we've talked about that on our G1 shows.
I mean, it's clear to me that it's some form of directive from somewhere for it to, just kind of occur out of nowhere. And we've given our thoughts on our day 2 and day 3 recaps. It's not as good of a team without him. So,
and it was noticeable. Like, we both noticed it the first show. Like, it was clear that it was not a 3-man booth. It was like Chris just popping in for the translations. And, that's been consistent with the shows he's been on.
It's been interesting to see, like, we're not alone in that opinion. Like, pretty much unanimous. Like, when the story broke today, like, it's been to be unanimous. Like, everybody feeling like this is a wrong call. If in fact it is, a right report. We got a Justin from Baltimore, but in Miami, who says, "Hey guys, first time, long time. Raw was okay, nothing too egregious. I have a question for both of you. Do you guys remember when you talked about those chicken sandwiches a while back? Can you tell me where you got them, and can you describe them sandwiches again?"
What was it called? It was at
the X, which is like
at the X, yeah.
But I mean, I think in Toronto there's actually a place where you can get them. Davey will remember. I personally don't remember right now, but it was like what, fried chicken sandwiches?
Yeah, it was like hot chicken or Nashville chicken.
Does that sound? Let me
Nashville hot
chicken.
Maybe.
Nashville hot chicken.
Yes, I think that's it.
Wait, is it called Nashville hot? Let me see this. Nashville hot chicken sandwich from Tokyo Hot.
Tokyo Hot. Okay, there is a Nashville hot in Toronto as well.
Oh, okay. Well, do some Googling. I'm sure you'll find it.
Or is it? Okay, yours is right. Yeah.
Tokyo Hot, right?
Tokyo Hot.
But is that an actual place?
Let me see. Tokyo Hot fried chicken, Toronto.
Oh yeah, it's here. Okay, yes. This might be the place. It's at 365 King West.
There you go. All right, and the final piece comes from Justin, that was Justin. MJ, I'm very over Rollins. I was impressed by the way they debuted Bray and not surprised by the lack of originality in his first feud being exactly where he left off with the Demon Balor. Natty showed some fire. Raw was A.
As in EH, like the Canadian.
Yeah, EH.
Yeah, not an A letter.
All right. Well, some disappointment on Raw, but that was the show.
At this point, John,
a marked improvement from last week, so let's be a little optimistic.
Well, let me ask you, John, this week is said to be, I guess, the first official week of the Paul Heyman and Eric Bischoff eras. But from what we can gather, at least this is a show where Paul Heyman has had influence for 3 weeks in a row now. Has the luster worn off?
To me, just watching the shows, strictly watching them, it seems that while maybe his input has increased, I think that this is largely
the same show.
It's the same show, and this is Vince McMahon's show. That's what I take from at least the Raw side so far. For these 3 episodes that we have to gather from, I saw the first week seemed to be one where they were more open than ever and wanted to come out of the gate and show a different style. And then last week was a total disaster. And this week was somewhere in the middle. And I think that we're going to see Raw kind of approximate what we saw this week. Next week is kind of a weird show. I don't think you can even judge it because it seems like it's going to be the outlier, that it's probably not a show you can take a whole lot from because it's going to be so cameo heavy. But I do hope that we get something big next week because you have a lot of people that are going to be checking out the show next week that are not regular viewers. So you have an opportunity there. But yeah, I would say like this so far, it feels like this is Vince McMahon's show and everyone's got their input, but it's ultimately going to come down to how does Vince McMahon feel this week about the ideas that come and what he's going to sign off on. That's what this feels like.
Do you think we'll see any hint of any differences in particular, of Eric Bischoff's touches on SmackDown tomorrow?
I'm not expecting it. No,
me neither. No, I mean, if anything, it'll probably be him actually learning how to, from what we gather, it's going to.
I think it's going to be a slow introductory period for Bischoff. I don't think you're going to see any dramatic changes, especially where SummerSlam, you would figure most of the card is figured out right now, and it's merely building up the key programs. I don't think you're going to come in with any kind of radical changes, and I think it's going to be a period of Eric just familiarizing himself with being in the role and getting up to speed on all of these characters and stories, which Paul Heyman had the advantage of already being up on.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So that's going to bring an end to the show. Thank you to all of you for listening. Wai and I are going to be back on Tuesday night following said show of SmackDown. And then, of course, all our G1 coverage, it resumes on Thursday. We'll have 3 straight days of shows. Post Wrestling Cafe is where you can go sign up. Thank you to all of the new patrons that have joined over the last week or so since the G1 has begun. Welcome aboard. And that's it. We are out. And